Hey, I'm talking to you. Knock, knock. The future is now. We now have headphones that can analyze your brainwaves when you're just wearing them during the day, and they'll give you reports on your daily levels of focus, stress, anxiety, cognitive speed, and other metrics. I've been collecting these measurements for the last month, and we're going to take a look at my data in this video. I'm Dr. Cody Rall, a U.S. Navy trained psychiatrist, and I've been testing brain devices like this for over 10 years, and I've never seen data from something like this that's so clean and accurate, comprehensive, and it all comes from something that's so easy to use daily. These are the Neuroble MW75s. They just got shipped out to customers this year, and they just updated their software to have these new brain health metrics on the main Neuroble app. We'll take a look at my brain scores and how they changed across 4 different situations over the course of a month. I did a baseline light work week, then I did a stressful week where I was getting a 5-day coaching program off the ground, and then I did a full vacation reset in Hawaii, and then I came back to Las Vegas to my home office for a lighter work week to see how my brain would get back up and running after the vacation. We'll cover what changes in my brain the Neuroble device saw throughout the month, if I felt like they were actually accurate to what I was experiencing from week to week, and how they compared to metrics from other brainwave devices like the Muse headband, and also if I felt like the data actually informed me to make educated decisions about my work schedule to optimize my mental resilience. Now let's jump right into some data here. This is my baseline data that I recorded at the beginning of the month. You can see all the brain health metrics the headphones are collecting and reporting in the app. We have calmness, wakefulness, focused attention, physical stress, cognitive speed, anxiety resilience, and overall brain performance score. Now, from what I understand, the brain performance score is your measured brain age subtracted from 100. And what's really crazy is that the headphones actually understood that I was about 37 years old just by measuring my brainwaves. It's not like when I signed up for the app, I put in my full name and age and gender. It just knew that from measurement, which is really, really wild. And then it showed me how my relative brain age would change from day to day based on how rested or active or cognitively strained I was. I interviewed one of the chief scientists at Neuroble, Dr. Walter, who told me that this is actually based on machine learning analyses of test subjects working from within Neuroble. They basically had the device measure their brain through their brain waves, gave the AI their age. The AI is actually correlating your various brain measurements, comparing that to the data set, and then reverse engineering your brain age based on the machine learning analysis of the large data sets.
And I actually did a demo on myself earlier today, and it guessed my age exactly. And I've seen it a lot of times, but it still blows me away that it can do that. It uses interpreted EEG data, and based off of what it's seen before, what brain patterns look like based on people's age, it will infer what your age is.
Now, backing up a little bit, what's really cool about these is they look just like a regular pair of high quality headphones, but they have these soft silver thread brainwave sensors embedded into the ear pads. Now I can tell you that the sound quality, the noise cancellation, the comfort, and the multi-point connectivity with the two-way chat are all features that I love about these headphones. It makes them so easy to wear every day because I literally want to wear them while I'm working. Now, the company recommends that you do brainwave recording with them for at least 30 minutes a day to get the best overall comprehensive measurements for your brain health metrics. That way the AI has enough data to work with to give you the best overall picture of how your brain is doing from day to day. When I first got these headphones, the main feature on the app was these focus graphs that can show you how your attention is doing from work session to work session. If you look at this graph, you see that the deep blue represents deep focus, which is something like flow state. You're really engaged and you're not getting distracted. Light blue is moderate focus, and orange is when you get distracted. You do get focus scores at the end and build up throughout the day, which is pretty motivating. And I've learned a lot about my focus by doing this measurement at different parts of the day with different activities, and before and after doing things like taking nootropics and other cognitive enhancers. But now that they've added these brain health fitness reports, they are just adding a whole new dimension to the same data set that you record while you're tracking your focus. That's right, you can just use one 30-minute session per day to track both your focus metrics and then get the brain health report at the end of the day, which is really convenient. Now, when I started doing measurements with these headphones every day, I was mostly doing it during the week because I thought that I should just be tracking focus sessions. So even though I was using them on the weekends for playing video games or watching Netflix, I wasn't recording that brainwave data because I didn't think that I needed the focus scores from those types of activities. Looking back, that was a bit of a mistake because I should have been recording my brainwave activity over the weekends to see how my brain was actually doing on the weekends and if I was able to recharge for the next week. So after I got my initial metrics and was like, man, I should have gotten that weekend data, I changed it up a bit. So even if I was just reading a book or watching Netflix on the weekend, I would still get at least 30 minutes of recordings on Saturday and Sunday. That way I could see if my brain was recharging at the end of the week. So after they gave me the initial reports, I started recording every day and I really learned a lot. I noticed a huge difference in how my brain was attempting to recharge based on what I was actually doing with my weekends. So to recap my methods here, over the course of a month, I wore the Neuroble MW75 headphones for at least 30 minutes a day, every day. I wore them while working at home during a normal week, then while running in an intensive 5-day coaching challenge program, then while traveling on the plane and resting at the hotel during vacation, and then once again when I was back in the office. The device quietly tracked my brainwaves through all these situations with the embedded EEG brainwave sensors and translated them into the 6 key cognitive metrics of calmness, wakefulness, focused attention, physical stress, cognitive speed, and anxiety resilience. You can think of anxiety resilience as the amount of stress you can handle, meaning that if you have high levels of anxiety resilience, you can handle high levels of stress without it causing higher levels of anxiety. Now let's start with the baseline week data. Now this is a normal work period. I'm just working on videos, prepping for the coaching week, so it's pretty relaxed, and my brainwave metrics really reflect that by being relatively stable throughout the week. The calmness was moderate, cognitive speed and focused attention were consistent, physical stress was low, and the anxiety resilience was high, meaning that I wasn't feeling run down or experiencing much anxiety during this week. Now this paints a picture of just being balanced and having a sustained cognitive load throughout the week that doesn't wear me down with my regular routine. And that's generally what I experienced. It was a pretty relaxing week. So nothing extreme, quite steady, and actually a great baseline for comparison to these other weeks that were a little bit more variable. Next came the 5-day challenge week where I am running group coaching every day, really getting the program off the ground. And this is where you can see the metrics really start to shift. You can see that on Monday, my wakefulness, focused attention, and cognitive speed are within normal limits after being refreshed by the weekend. But another thing that you see on Monday, which I thought was really interesting, is that my anxiety resilience is low. And this really matched up with how I feel when I start a new program. I'm generally pretty confident, but there's always that level of anxiety of meeting the new group and hoping that the group members are a good fit for the program. And so I think that my anxiety resilience is lower on Mondays when I start new groups. And what you see with the anxiety resilience is that as the week progresses and I get more comfortable with the group members and really start enjoying myself with the group coaching, that the anxiety resilience actually rises higher and higher. I have more and more resilience to anxiety. But what you also see during this week is that my brain gets more and more tired as the week goes on. My cognitive speed went down a bit, but what you really notice is a drop in focused attention and wakefulness that go all the way down into the red by the end of the week. And I can tell you, after 5 days of giving lectures and running group coaching, I definitely feel drained. I start slurring my words a little bit during lectures. My decision-making capacity goes way down, so that cognitive fatigue really sets in. And the EEG brainwave data clearly shows that through the Neuroble headphones as I go through this accumulated cognitive and mental fatigue. Now, I'm definitely pushing through the work, but you can see that under the surface, my brain is showing signs of overload. And I think that for most people managing high stress responsibilities, this is a perfect example of why this brain data really matters, because you might be burning the candle at both ends, but you might not even see it before you reach a breaking point. But with this data, it's so educational to see how your brain performance is just going down throughout the week and that you really need a break. Also, if you have had a string of a couple of months where you're working really hard, Maybe you need to do what I did, which was go on a short vacation after launching a whole program from scratch in order to recharge. Now, I should mention that if you want to learn how to do this and share your story and learn from other people in a group program with like-minded individuals that I've attracted into the Techforpsych ecosystem, it's super fun. It's a 5-day program. I call it Sharper Every Day. If you want to learn more, head to www.sharpereveryday.com if you want to join up with us. Now, getting back to the brain metrics. So I went on vacation. My wife hadn't been to Hawaii yet, so we decided to book a 6-day trip to Maui. So I kept recording my brainwaves after the 5-day challenge week through the weekend and into the vacation week where I recorded on the plane and while relaxing at the hotel. As far as daily activities, I just took it easy. I mostly played on the beach with my daughter. I swam in the pool. I did some snorkeling with sea turtles, which was awesome, and a little bit of cliff diving, which might not have been the most relaxing activity, but it was certainly thrilling, and I felt great afterwards from a little dopamine rush from a little bit of risk taking. It wasn't that big of a deal. And I should mention that I didn't drink any alcohol on this trip. I haven't had a drip of alcohol in almost 2 years now, which I think is actually crucial to allowing your body and your brain to getting rest while on your vacation. I know it's kind of a bummer. People like to drink on vacation, but I just, after all the years of looking at the data of the inflammation to your nervous system, the disruption of your sleep, I just can't afford to do that right now with young children and building a business. So no alcohol during the vacation, full on rest and recovery mode for me. I will say that our bedtime got a little late being out there. It's 3 hours behind Vegas and the sunsets are so beautiful, so you want to stay up late and watch them. So it did move back my daily schedule about 3 hours, but I did make sure to at least get 8 hours of sleep every night. And I still was getting up relatively early in the morning and going and lifting weights and getting in runs on the beach and walking around the resort. So I tried to keep a somewhat regular schedule and routine while we were there. I also stayed away from any fried food, and I tried to eat as clean as possible at the resort, which is a little challenging, but if you do order a burger, just get 2 burgers and skip the fries, that type of thing. And I think that it's a lot better than just indulging in everything that they try to sell you there. Now, at this point in the beta testing program, I couldn't get my data until I returned to the office. So I didn't know what was going on while I was on vacation in terms of what my brain data was doing. But when I got back in the office, I was totally blown away. I just laughed because you can really see that I was under very little physical stress. My physical stress for the first time ever was like all in the green. And I just think of that cool Pacific breeze rustling through the palm trees and the ocean bubbling on the shore. Honestly, I was really impressed with Maui. It's very relaxing, and you can see that in the brain data. And it's funny too, because you can also see how my brain was just totally offline. I interpret that as being in rest and relax mode because my wakefulness and my focused attention went down into the red for the whole week of the vacation. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's my brain disengaging from the normal high intensity cognitive focus that I have like week in and week out doing Techforpsych. And for once, I was just able to disengage and go from maybe more of a sympathetic fight or flight mode to a parasympathetic rest and relax mode as far as my central nervous system is, which I think is crucial. We need that downtime in order to recharge. You can see that the cognitive speed was down as well. Now, as far as work that week, I did check my email every once in a while, but honestly, after designing an entire coaching program from the ground up and doing several rounds of it and just improving every round, I was just worn out. And there wasn't hardly anything that was going to get me back to doing focused work during that week. I just wanted to disengage, be with my family, and relax. So it was also really cool to see my anxiety resilience go up much higher during the rest and relax vacation week, meaning that, hey, I must not have been under much stress. So it would have taken a lot to bother me at that point, just because I was so checked out and being like, you know what, it's vacation week, I'm gonna enjoy myself and just relax. As opposed to when you're overworked and in fight or flight mode for too long, and the smallest things can just set you off just because your cognitive load is so high. And that is simply why we need to take breaks and vacation like this. Not the easiest thing to do for type A personalities, but I'm becoming a believer after seeing this data. Another thing that I thought was interesting about this data is that on Saturday, you actually see the anxiety resilience go down. And Saturday was actually quite a special day because we scheduled a sunset boat tour on a catamaran, but I had the toddler and my pregnant wife, and it was really windy. The ocean was really choppy. And when we did go on the catamaran, it was really nice. There was like rainbows in the sky and a beautiful sunset, but it was rocky. And I was really nervous about my 2-year-old daughter being on the boat, just making sure that she doesn't get flung off the side into the ocean. And unfortunately, my wife did get seasick, so I was really worried about her. So on Saturday, when you see that anxiety resilience go down, I have a very good reason of why that is so. Again, really accurately tracking my subjective experience. So Monday, we were traveling back to Las Vegas, and I did do a little work on the plane, so you can actually see my brain slowly switching back into wakefulness and focused attention as we come back to the mainland. Maybe not fully online, but sort of revving up back into the next work week. And then my anxiety resilience went up again as well, and I interpret that as just like getting back into the routine, having a sigh of relief, everything's fine, we didn't lose anything, and just getting back to routine, getting home, getting back to your own environment is always a bit of a sigh of relief just because you had a good vacation and your wife and your child are fine and everything's good. We didn't lose anything of significant value. So now I'm getting back to work. It takes me a little bit of time to get back up and running. But for the rest of the week, it's really a lighter, more structured work week, and I had to catch up on some things. So metrics were pretty good. Wakefulness and focused attention did dip again by Friday, but with that weekend recharge after the week that we got back and into the next normal week, I saw a big rebound in wakefulness and focused attention. So overall, what I'm seeing from this data is that there are big differences between different types of weeks. You can see how you can hold steady on a regular week that is relatively relaxed, but if you're really pushing and working hard, you're definitely draining your brain's batteries by the end of the week. It shows me how important weekends and vacations are to recharge. Like that brain drain is real because, if I wasn't getting much sleep during the week and that was affecting my brain scores, that would be one thing because I know sleep deprivation really makes those brain scores go down. Like you might have someone that doesn't get much sleep during the week and then catches up on sleep on the weekend, and that's the reason their brain score is recharged. But for me, I get 8 hours every night. So it's not like sleep was a huge change between the week and weekend. It's literally that my brain is just disengaging from work and able to rest and relax. And then you can really see that during vacation where I just disengage for like 5 or 6 days. I wonder if I did this again, I would see something similar where the anxiety resilience actually starts to go down a little bit towards the end of the vacation because you want to get back to your routine. And some studies have shown that taking shorter, more frequent breaks, maybe every 2 to 3 months, for 3 to 5 day vacations throughout the year is better for you than just taking like one long vacation, like a 2-week vacation once a year. And I think that the brain data supports that. Now, I did also compare these Neuroble metrics to Muse peak alpha data, which I was recording every day throughout the month as well. Peak alpha is a biometric that we can use as an indicator for cognitive performance. It's not as comprehensive as these metrics that Neuroble is offering, but I wanted to see if there was any correlation. So I actually fed both data sets into ChatGPT AI analysis to see what it would find as far as correlation coefficients, meaning how much does this data correlate from day to day, week to week. Now, ChatGPT chose to actually average out the data sets to about every 5 to 10 days based on the data because it said that that actually was more reliable than the day-to-day fluctuations. And I was actually really surprised and pleased to see that there was a high correlation based on correlation coefficients. Now, I thought that it would be wakefulness or focused attention at the top of the list, but it was actually something different. Now, if you consider that the highest possible correlation coefficient would be 1.0, the score of 0.94 for anxiety resilience was really highly correlated. So peak alpha was actually really highly correlated at 0.94 with the anxiety resilience metric of Neuroble, which is something that I didn't expect. But in retrospect, it makes me think about like, if you don't get a good night of sleep, it really tanks your peak alpha. And just think about how you are when you're sleep deprived. You're just so much more vulnerable to stress and it causing your anxiety. So in retrospect, having a low peak alpha score, I think would tank your anxiety resilience. So there's definitely a correlation there. Now, the other Neuroble metrics that I thought would have more highly correlated with peak alpha were still highly correlated in the 90s and 80s. And those were cognitive speed, focused attention, and wakefulness, as I would have expected. Now, calmness was only moderately correlated at 0.69, and there was actually a small negative correlation with physical stress. Makes sense. If your peak alpha is low, you might be under higher levels of physical stress, but less closely related than what we see with the anxiety resilience. So I thought all this data was totally fascinating. It makes me so excited for continued brain measurement systems. I think this just fits in so well with the longevity movement, and everybody that's trying to biohack their bodies can now biohack their brain. Now, if you want to learn more about how to track and optimize these metrics so that you just feel your best every day, be sure to take a look at my 5-day challenge. The other group members have been amazing. So if you want to join a group of like-minded individuals that are interested in neurotechnology, biohacking, and mental resilience training, be sure to check out the 5-day program, www.sharpereveryday.com. Also, I do have a discount for Neuroble below if you want to invest in that pair of headphones and track your own metrics. And I will be doing a more in-depth comparison of Neuroble to the Muse next month, so be sure to subscribe to the channel for that. Finally, if you want to see a more in-depth discussion of Muse peak alpha brain performance levels, click this video here, and I'll see you on the other side.